The conflict in Syria has been continuing now for more than a decade. The discussions in the Council began in March of 2011 during the initial days of India's previous stint in the Security Council. From the beginning, the politicization and militarization of the conflict negatively impacted the regional and international mediation efforts. The persisting and repeated calls for regime change, external support to the armed groups in Syria complicated the situation and resulted in the growth of terrorism. Violence has been along sectarian lines, and terrorist groups including Al-Qaeda have entrenched themselves more than ever. India has always condemned all acts of violence in Syria as well as violations of international humanitarian and human rights law, irrespective of who their perpetrators are. We have also condemned in the strongest terms all terrorist acts that have been and continue to be committed in Syria. India has been consistent in highlighting how acts of external players have contributed to growth of terrorism in Syria. Against this background, the issue of accountability cannot be discussed in isolation, nor can it be seen from the narrow perspective of acts committed by one side. Such an approach will be politically divisive and only exacerbates the problem and should therefore be avoided, particularly when the Council has made some progress by acting together to adopt Resolution 2585 earlier this year. The accountability for acts committed within the territory of Syria falls under the ambit of sovereignty of the state. This is a matter for Syrians themselves to deliberate and establish accountability for crimes committed. This cannot be done by external players. The external players need to introspect about their own actions that are driven largely by political and strategic motives, particularly its negative fallout over more than a decade on the Syrian population, particularly women, elderly, and the children. The external players need to do everything possible to support the efforts of the Special Envoy. Lastly, let me reaffirm our commitment to advancing a Syrian-led and Syrian-owned UN-facilitated political process in line with the UN Security Council Resolution 2254. India firmly believes that long-term security and stability of the region can only be achieved by preserving the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria.